I can't really build a life on such shaky ground. I need to make a change. My specialty in film was the pitch. I would go into Universal or Sony and I would get them to part with their money. Different personality types respond differently to pitches. If somebody is an expressive, animated person, mirror that, dial that up, because I knew it would be probably more than one meeting. I didn't bring a book because I wanted an excuse to meet him another time. Los Angeles residential real estate is pretty safe. Over the last, 20 years, there are only a few years, like maybe I think 4 years, where properties have not appreciated. There's a book that I highly recommend to you, any of the listeners, called
All right, what is up, and welcome back to Zen Business. Today, I'm so happy to have with me today Adam Brawer, international man of mystery, but also a leading executive and real estate broker at Compass, which is a leading brokerage here in the area. I'm sure you've heard of it, unless you've been living under a rock. He is a specialist in entertainment and sports clientele, coming from the entertainment world prior, which we're going to talk about today, former movie director and producer.
I had a situation where Ben Stiller got prostate cancer and he survived, thank God. It wasn't public at the time. We didn't know. He basically said, I can't do the movie. Something personal has come up. So I realized, I was like, I can't really build a life on such shaky ground. I need to make a change. And I got really quiet with myself, and I didn't know what I would do. And I was just lying in a body of water, and I spoke to the universe, and I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need help. Please give me some direction. And I didn't immediately get any direction, but I asked some friends, and the feedback was, get your real estate license. Just get it. Just get your license. Even if you represent yourself on your next purchase, just get your license.
Do you believe in God?
I do.
Okay.
And so I got my license, and initially I wasn't thinking like I'm going to do a full-on pivot. I thought that my specialty in film was the pitch. I would go into Universal or Sony and I would get them to part with their money.
There's a lot of people listening today who could gain an incredible value from that. So I want to dig into it, but go on.
Would love to. Let's go deep on that. And so I knew if I could get executives whose job it was to say no, to say yes, I knew if I could get those people to say yes, without question, I could get sellers who want to sell their house to say, yes, Adam, you can sell it for me. I still had zero experience, had no idea what I was doing, but I figured in the meantime, make some sales, make some money while I figure out what I'll do with my life. Now this happened, this was December 2019. I actually got my license on my birthday. That's why I remember exactly when it was. And I'm not sure if you've heard of an Akashic reading by chance. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I did an Akashic reading with this well-known Akashic reader. And I just asked, I was like, should I get out of entertainment and jump into real estate? And am I allowed to curse on this podcast?
Yeah.
Great. So her response, she was like, yes, fuck yes, fuck yes. Then she said, the entertainment industry is going to shut down in a few months. Then she said, the streets of LA will not be safe. There will be riots on the streets of LA. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah, before it all happened, that was unfathomable.
Unfathomable. I was like, okay, there's no way the entertainment industry is shutting down. That sounds ludicrous. And then she said, treat real estate like a game. You will win this game. Treat it like a game.
Wow, that's so good. And
so I dove all the way in. I was going to go to Bali for a month and just, do recalibrate and come back a new person. And it was another moment. And I was like, you know what? I'm diving all the way in on this real estate thing, and I can take a vacation at another time. Thank God I did that. So fortunate with timing was on my side. And I was much more prepared than I thought, because the skill set for a great realtor, it's the same skill set for a great producer. You're pitching, you're marketing. In film, you are navigating between the suits, the executives, the financiers, and the creatives. It's nuanced, it's complicated, you have to know your audience. In real estate, it's less complicated, but you definitely have to know your audience. You're negotiating. You are, there's an element of storytelling in both. In film, you're telling long stories. In real estate, could be a 60-second, FPV drone shot through a house and some VO. But storytelling is part of it. And so I was really fortunate. I found success really quickly. In March, COVID hit. In April, interest rates dropped. In May, I sold a lot of fucking houses.
Really? 3 months in?
Like 4 or 5. I sold 18 homes my first year, which is a lot. And I had a bunch of opportunities. I got a mentor early on. It just kind of happened. And at that point, I realized maybe this is not an in the meantime thing. Entertainment completely shut down. All my friends were out of work.
Even today, it's moving to Atlanta and all these other places.
It's a shell of what it used to be.
Exactly. Perfect way of putting it.
Yeah.
AI, and then all the tax incentives are gone in LA, and production is just leaving.
It's just leaving. So my partner on the Chippendales film is this guy, David Permit. He produced Face Off, and he multi-Oscar nominated producer. Spoke to him a couple days ago. He's in Toronto shooting this other movie, and he said he just finished a film for Apple in LA on like Sunday or Saturday. And he said they were at Sunset Gower Studios. There were 20 sound stages there. Only one of them was active shooting a movie, and it was his movie.
Unreal.
Yeah. So a lot of my clients are entertainment. Some of them are in front of the camera, some of them are executives, but being a producer is like, it is not a good time to be a producer right now.
Oof.
Yeah.
That Akashic reading was so on point.
That reader moved before COVID hit to Marin County because she knew it was coming.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
If that doesn't make you believe that these things are possible, first of all, manifestation, but also you can look into the future. Time doesn't exist. These are all real things. And it sounded crazy like a few years ago, but now it's like facts. It's like conspiracies that are now true. It's just like, well, you can say what you want about it, but
yep. Yeah. This is the data says, this is what the data says.
Correct. And her data was right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there, and I want to unpack it in pieces. So break down the DNA of a perfect pitch.
So in film or in real estate or both? Or
just a pitch.
A pitch.
You're talking to tech founders and successful tech guys. So these guys are raising capital, but you're also pitching to investors in real estate, and you're also pitching to investors in studios. So
totally. So I think the first thing that's really important is to know your audience. You want to know, different personality types respond differently to pitches. If somebody is, an expressive, animated person, mirror that, dial that up. If someone's really reserved and, very fiscally responsible and conservative, you don't want to go in there with a wild pitch. You will not get the result that you're looking for.
Great foundation.
Yeah. And so what I like to do prior to a pitch is I want no holes in my armor. So usually dressed pretty immaculately, but that doesn't mean a 3-piece suit. It's just, beautifully matching, well-coiffed hair, potentially a haircut, fresh, 48-hour fresh cut. Mm-hmm. Lots of confidence. The first pitch I ever went into in real estate was, I was kind of blindsided because I thought it was going to be a dual pitch. I had never been on one before, and my partner for the pitch last minute didn't show up, and I didn't even have a presentation. That's not what you want to do. So what I did is I got out of the car, took a breath, and I said, "This is my home." And I walked in, had no paperwork. I gave a very short elevator pitch on what I would do. And then I just asked, my photographer's available Wednesday or Thursday. Which day is better?
Boom.
That was it. She chose Thursday. I said, great. I own the photos. So the second the photos come in, whether or not the DocuSign is signed, I know it's my listing.
Oh my God. That is so brilliant.
So that was great.
Let me just snapshot that moment. So he assumed the sale by, instead of asking, hey, do you want to proceed with me, went straight to what day works better? Wednesday or Thursday. I go for the same clothes. I'm like, so we have kickoff slots on Tuesday and Thursday. Which one's going to be best for you?
Exactly. I'll actually do a quick reversal. So 15-ish years ago, in 2009, there was the writer's strike, which was super catastrophic. I actually lost my job at the time, as did a lot of people. And I was raising money I was looking to raise a couple $1,000,000 back then for this film startup. I knew it would take time. So in order to cover my expenses, I took a one-call close phone job. I don't really talk about this, but happy to. Selling extended auto warranties. So it was one call close. I would call somebody up, didn't know them, they didn't know me. And by the end of the 20 minutes, I had their credit card.
That's hardcore selling right there.
It was Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah, the boiler room.
Yeah. And so one thing that job taught me is at the end of it, I would never say, would you like to proceed? I would say, so we take Visa, MasterCard, American Express, which is best for you? And that would at least get the conversation moving into either we're selling, or are there more objections to overcome, more questions, or somebody might say, go fuck yourself. And in that case, I would say, have a great day. And I would call the next number.
Yeah, I like how you apply it to everyday selling, to real estate pitching. All of it is about, if you have the confidence that the deal's already done, you can just start acting that way, and people will mirror you naturally. If you study body language, that's how you connect with somebody in the physical spaces. You guys mirror each other.
Yes.
And it makes me think about the DISC framework, like dominant, intuitive.
Yes.
If you guys haven't heard of that, look up the DISC framework. But if you're dealing with a dominant personality type, you need to come in like big and bold.
100%. That's, for me, that's exactly know your audience. Exactly. That's what it is. 1,000,000%. I just lost my train of thought, but yes.
Well, okay. So I want to keep digging away at here. So today, Adam Brawer has the listing for a $50 million mansion at the top of Beverly Hills, literally at the top of Beverly Hills.
Yep.
Invited me out. It is the most spanning, beautiful, breathtaking space I've ever been in.
Thank you.
It must be like 50,000 square foot house. And
it's huge.
Just, it's probably the hottest listing in LA. I think it's listed for like $50 million.
Yep.
So obviously you had to pitch.
Yes.
What's his name, Matt?
His name's Jeff.
Jeff
Franklin.
Jeff Franklin.
He's the creator of Full House, the TV series.
Exactly. So when you pitched him, talk me through how you closed that deal.
So this is a funny story. I find it funny.
And did you pitch?
I did. So he and I have a mutual friend, we have a mutual friend. He's one of my closest friend, and they're newer friends. And I knew he was looking to sell his property. It had been listed a few years ago for $85 million. By Josh Altman, who's a $1 million listing. And so I met him last December, and I went in, and one of the things, I like to do things a little bit differently in real estate. I feel like when somebody vibes with you, once that connection is established, I've had clients say like, I'll sign whatever you send me. Just send me, send it to me. So I was like, okay, I don't really know I did some research on him first. I was like, okay, Full House, these movies, he's about 70 years old. I see he bought some property in Miami, I did a little internet sleuthing, but I didn't go too deep. And I didn't think that after one meeting it would be my listing. I was like, this is probably a stepping stone to the next meeting, but I'm available for anything. So I put together a presentation. Compass is basically a tech company that happens to sell real estate, but Compass spent 1.2 billion building out this platform. It's robust. Wow. It's the best in the world. There's no debate about that. And so I put together pretty great pitch book deck, bound, and I brought a sage.
So you went formal with it.
I went formal, yeah.
Yeah, you did. You crossed all your T's, dotted your I's, came with printouts, so he knew it was like enterprise grade.
Exactly. Yes, and
it wasn't just hobnobbing.
No. This is specific. This is bespoke. This is custom for you. What I actually did, I just remembered, because I knew, I don't usually do this, but because I knew it would be probably more than one meeting, I didn't bring a book because I wanted an excuse to meet him another time.
That's super smart.
Thank you. But what I did bring, I trademarked the phrase "from staged to saged." Mm-hmm. I'm known as the high vibe realtor. I gift clients sage. And so I trademarked the phrase "from stage to sage," and so I brought my custom branded sage. I gave him
something to remember you by.
Yes, and his fiance loved it. Loved it. And so spent about an hour and a half. He toured the property. I always like them to talk more first because there's a lot of information and I ask a lot of questions because I want to know. One of the questions I ask is, what are you looking for in a realtor? I want to know. I will then mirror back what they're looking for.
Precisely. It's like, it's so simple.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it could all be so easy. It could all be
so easy. You just have to ask the right questions. So we did all that, gave him the sage. I left him a little something. I left him like a partial book that was more on, it was on my past performance, and then I dropped off. I do custom brochures for property, and there's a beautiful $25 million property in Malibu that I listed, and I let him know, like, this type of property, it's an Andalusian palace. It deserves architectural level photography. And I saw the photos from the previous listing, and they were fine, but they weren't incredible. Mm-hmm. And I said, listen, the photos that I will deliver can be mounted in the Louvre. This is like art. So I left him all that, and I said, I'd love to, now that I've seen the home, I'm going to create a bespoke marketing pitch I didn't say a pitch, but like a marketing deck for you, specific for this property. And so I did, but I waited for him to reach out to request it. I didn't want to. One thing that I like to do whenever I'm doing business with somebody, I like to put myself in a position to be recognized and then invited in some way. And so I didn't want to come off as overly aggressive because, frankly, I don't need this listing. I want it.
And it's a super hard house to sell.
How many people can afford this house?
Yeah, it's just it's a big order. Yes, it's awesome that you got it, but now the work's cut out for you.
Yeah, and it's really expensive. I mean, I've probably spent $60,000 already, marketing this property.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and it's a risk. One I'm willing to take, obviously. And so he came back and said, I'd love to see that marketing deck. Can you send it to me? And I said, oh, I'm actually, perfect timing, actually, just finishing it. Do you have 15 minutes Tuesday or Wednesday? I'd love to drop it by so I can actually explain it. And he wasn't actually resistant. He was like, yeah, he's like, you can drop it off. He invited me to his other house. I rolled in and he has 2 dogs, and I love dogs, as you know. Yeah. So I just spent 10 minutes playing with the dogs, knowing that if his dogs love me, I'm one step closer to this listing.
Yeah. Take notes out there, people.
Then what I did in putting this presentation together is I reached out. There's this woman, Emily Green. She's the head of Compass Luxury. And I pulled, have you heard of WealthX? WealthX is a database of the wealthiest ultra high net worth people in the world. And I put together buyer archetypes for this property. Who potentially would buy this property? Probably not somebody who lives in Florida or Texas or like a much more tax advantageous state. Possibly a tech entrepreneur who's, just had a huge exit. probably a foreign buyer, maybe Chinese, maybe
Middle
Eastern, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Russian. And so I said my strategy is essentially these are the buyer archetypes. Now, how do I reach them? I'm going to geofence the top 10 private airports in the world. I am going to do marketing campaigns at all the Formula One, which I've done at all the Formula One events. We just did Miami Grand Prix. I'm going to geofence, the top private schools in
Using
LA.
ads?
Using ads, yeah.
Brilliant.
And I gave him this whole pitch and I dropped it off. And then I said, but beyond all that, what I'm going to do is create a brand identity around the home. I'm not going to treat this as a listing. This is a product launch. And so I came up with the name Villa Andalusia, created a logo, created marketing collateral, leave behinds, candles, etc. And he said yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea what went into it. I didn't know if it was like a handshake thing and wham bam thank you ma'am, or if it's like
it started with a handshake. Yeah, it started with a handshake, and then ended with a DocuSign.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. Gotta hold them to their word. That's another key piece of sales. Don't let people wiggle out on you.
No,
because that's already signaling bad behavior on their part.
Totally.
But okay, so thank you for the deep breakdown.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering how do I make a $50 million deal, that's kind of elaborate thinking that should go into it.
I think for me, it's like, so if I owned a $50 million home, well, I asked him, what are you looking for? And he said, I want someone.
Yeah, I wanted to know what he told you when you said that.
He said, I want someone to treat this as a priority. I want someone who's willing to spend money. I want someone who's not
put skin in the game.
Yeah, put skin in the game. And so that actually led into, after I had the listing, you usually, from staged to sage, usually stage a home. And I said, listen, the home architecturally, gorgeous, very well pedigreed home. It's Richard Landry is the designer. He did Mark Wahlberg's home,
Famous, yeah.
Dr. Dre's home, Kardashian's home. He's known as the king of the mega mansion. He did this home in... Wow. A guy I went to college with, I found out recently, is actually the head of design at that architecture firm. And they did a house in China that is like, it looks like it's Versailles, and it's over 100,000 square feet. It's just, they do big homes. And so if I owned a home like this, I'd want somebody to think way outside the box. Like, you could put something up, anyone can put something on MLS and take some good photos, but how do you market this like surgically with just precision? And so I told him that's what we do.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect and admiration for it, mainly on the skin in the game front, putting up $60K on somebody else's behalf.
Yes.
I mean, like you said, there's probably maybe 100 buyers in the world who are in the market for something like that. First of all, precision's needed, but also that's a big risk on your part to take.
It is.
Reputationally too. If it doesn't work out,
right,
you carry the...
But
what redeems you is that you have put forth such a noble effort, even if it doesn't sell.
Yep.
You've put through the most beautiful branding and materials, and that's something he can take with him, and he will never look negatively back on you.
Totally.
Because he's tried selling the house before. He knows what it takes to move something like that.
1,000,000%. Yeah. And it's a case study for me as well, where I can go to future clients with the marketing collateral that we've created, and it's like, this is the level at which we operate. And I know, I'm friendly with a bunch of other top realtors out here, and like, I know what most of them put into listings, and it's like, at a certain level, it becomes a volume game, and the level of attention put into any specific listing is not that much. There's a book that I highly recommend to you, any of the listeners, called Ninja Selling. It changed my life.
I'm definitely gonna get that.
It'll be my gift to you. I'll
please
Amazon it.
I have a book for you too.
Great.
Hard Thing About Hard Things. Have you read it?
No, but I'd love to read it.
Okay,
appreciate that.
I'll give it to you.
I went to Africa a couple years ago. I'm on safari. Very curated trip. A lot of high net worth. There were several billionaires on the trip, and
Wow.
We're like 4 hours in. I'm talking to this guy next to me. I'd met him before. Really nice guy, very successful entrepreneur. He owns the Proper here, and I know you just went there.
Yeah, I love that place.
Yeah, great spot. His name is Chad McWhinney, and I was telling him, I'm looking to get into developing. He said, read this book. He sent me a link. I buy it. It says Ninja.
He recommended Ninja Selling?
Yeah.
Say no more.
I was like, why would I not get this book? Yeah. So I click on the link. I buy it. The book that comes is a book about like ninja warriors. I'm like, dude, is this the right book? He's like, nope.
I'm like, damn, this book sounds awesome.
Then I was like, I almost didn't buy the actual book because I was like, whatever. I buy the book. Chad's mentioned 3 times in the book because the author is his mentor, I found out. Then I went a year ago to Colorado to study with his name is Larry Kendall, the author. And Larry built the most successful brokerage per agent in North America. And he did it with these principles that are applicable to so many businesses, especially if you've clients. It's all about how do you add value. One way, little secret, at least in real estate. So financial advisors, they generally do end of year reviews, like how's the portfolio doing, blah, blah, blah. Realtors, we never do end of year reviews. Like that's not even a thing. But they built this proprietary software where you can put together sort of very small, but very like succinct and like data rich dossier on how your hyper-local market's doing, how your property's doing, what the trends are, what the odds of selling are.
Damn, that's cool.
It's super cool.
I'd love to have that if I was a client.
You know what I mean? So would I. I was like, I was just like, wow, this is...
Otherwise, you're just flying so blind.
Yeah.
Like, how big is my target addressable market here? Where do I stand? Like, how many views did my place get? How many tours did my place get compared to other comps?
Yep. All of those things.
Wow, it's cool.
So I read the book. It's been super helpful, and I just highly recommend it.
All right, there's still more that I want to unpack here. So you made the transition. So a lot of people listening are trying to raise capital, and 80% of it is unsuccessful, right? 20% close rate. You just figure, right? So for people who want to network with high net worth individuals, how did you come into this transition from the entertainment field? I want to just call out one thing I noticed about you. I don't say international man of mystery lightly. I actually do mean that. I think you have a great way of teasing up interest, but not redeeming it, right? Like you want to give her a taste of the chocolate, but you don't want to give her a whole candy bar, right?
Yes.
Like
sizzle, not the steak, just the sizzle.
Exactly. So it's like an hors d'oeuvre versus like a freaking Yule log from Christmas, right? Like nobody's going to want to eat the whole damn thing, even though it tastes good, right?
Yeah.
So how do you create mystique and mystery, and how does that guide your networking with these HNIs?
So one thing I like to do is, in real estate, they say, like you meet people doing things you enjoy doing, like genuinely enjoy doing. And so this trip to Africa or this yacht trip that I'm about to go on, for instance, when I first got the invitation, I was like, do I want to drop like 25 grand doing this thing? Like, I'm not sure if I want to do that. And I dug into the list. I talked to the person organizing it, and she was like, there are going to be 8 billionaires on this trip. And most of the people who come on this trip, I think there were like 125 people.
Spots left?
This was the previous trip. So it's the founders of Daybreaker started a travel, like a highly curated travel company called Wow It's Now, WIN. And I didn't know prior to going in, but a lot of people who are looking to raise money for various new entrepreneurial things will go on this trip. I didn't know that until I was on the trip. So I'm on the trip having a great time, and I realized, okay, well, this guy founded Vital Proteins. This guy was the CEO of Chipotle. This guy is this guy. This guy is this guy. And everyone's armor's down because we're on safari. We book out the Four Seasons Serengeti, and it's the whole hotel is ours, and we're just
unreal,
having a blast. So
It's fucking awesome.
It's great. So I realized, I'm like, okay, how do I want to invest my money in terms of marketing? Well, highly curated exotic travel is a write-off. If this is business development.
Well, yeah, it's a mastermind.
It's a mastermind.
Some sort.
Exactly. So I joined Malibu Racket Club. Joined Soho Malibu. I joined Monarch Athletic Club. Anybody who's paying $1,500 a month to work out.
It's $2K now.
$2K. They might have raised it.
You can lease a Lambo for $2K a month.
There you go. Yeah, that's impressive. I didn't know that. That's pretty good.
Obviously, I've been looking at some
Are
things.
you serious? I didn't realize it was that. Wow.
Yeah, it's $40K down. I literally talked to a guy this morning at the gym who paid $40K down, and it is $2,400 a month.
Wow, that is much less than I expected.
It's quite attainable.
Yeah,
and that's how those 20-year-olds in Miami pull it off.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I was like, I'm gonna invest in experiences that at locations where high net worth people hang out. Because who knows who I'll meet. When I first joined Equinox, 15, almost 20 years ago, I wasn't in real estate, so I wasn't even thinking about business. But I've closed at least one deal, and that one deal that I closed covered my whole membership for 10 years, for sure.
Literally,
100%. So yeah, I mean, and also, I like to approach those situations where we're equals. This person might be a billionaire. I know what I bring to the table, though, and it's a lot. And yeah, that energy.
He might need something that you have that he doesn't have.
For sure.
Right? He might want a connection to one of your contacts.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you're valuable to him.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're nailing it so hard. Like, this is... So I always ask people about this stuff. Obviously, it's super interesting to me, but it's also valuable to listeners because people can't navigate social shit these days. People lack social skills. They are cooped up and boarded up. And even myself, like as an entrepreneur, I'm inclined to spend more time at my desk. I just got invited to a mastermind in Monaco, and I'm like, I don't have time for that shit. But now you're making me rethink things.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're causing my mind is exploding right now because my friend who has the Lambo, his old Lambo, by the way, 27-year-old kid, he sold it for more than he bought it for.
Nice.
So he actually made money by owning a Lambo.
I love that.
To all you cheap asses out there, right? So then I started looking into it. I'm like, oh my God, there's certain cars that gain value. For example, Ferrari 488 or 458, buy it for $200K, sell it for $200K.
Nice.
And get to use it for 3 years.
Yes.
Right? So this is what smart, rich people are doing. They're actually, they're not only enjoying the assets, but they're actually making money on them.
Yep.
Right? Like I'm going to a yacht trip in the Serengeti. I'm paying $25K. You think I'm wasting money when in fact I'm about to make a $200,000 commission on one house that I sell there.
Totally. I made one sale. Let's see. I did 3 deals, not all sales. 2 of them were like high-end leases from people on that trip, and it paid for the trip. Not only did it pay for the trip, if the only thing I got from that trip was Ninja Selling, the book, way ahead of the game. And I'll give one more little tidbit from the Ninja Selling thing that I'm sure is applicable to other pitches. So usually in real estate, you go into the pitch, you do a little bit of a song and dance, you leave behind a book. What I do now is I have custom, it almost looks like it's like an Emmy box. It's like magnetic enclosure. It's got my logo emblazoned on the front. It's like a gorgeous piece of merchandise. I have my, bound presentation in there, cover letter, blah, blah, blah. And then I have it hand delivered the day before I meet with the person by my assistant. They're not expecting it. They get a ring on the door. I had one client who was like, man, that was some flex. So by the time, before I've even walked in the front door, they've looked through all my stuff. It's very impressive. And then I'm 98% there already.
And I want to snapshot certain moments here so that we can appreciate what's happening. That is creating mystique.
Yes.
And intrigue.
Yes.
And if you want people to be attracted to you, That is how you do it.
Yes.
Again, you're not giving them a whole candy bar. You're giving them a little morsel. It's like poking them just with a little bit of pleasure.
Yes, exactly.
And they're wondering, who the fuck is this guy?
Who is this guy? Yeah.
And then you show up and you're Adam fucking Brawer, you know?
Go.
But you got to be downplayed.
Totally.
Literally. Yeah, you walk in quietly and modestly and humbly.
Yep.
And now they're asking me even more questions because they're like, I thought this guy would be all big and boisterous. He just flexed on me.
Right.
But it turns out he's actually a cool guy.
Yeah.
And he's mellow and he's cool to be around. Somebody I would hang out with, you know?
Thank you. Yeah.
So go on. Sorry, I'm not sure if you wanted to expand more on, you know, you send the care package.
Yeah, so it's hand delivered. They've already done their research on me. They've probably already checked out the website. You know, the other thing that
If somebody Googles you, is it all like tidy?
it's solid. Yeah, I mean, I've got a company called Luxury Presence. They design my site. They do SEO. They do everything's great 5-star Google reviews. Lots of them.
Smart man.
When talking about like I want no kinks in my armor, whether it's the way I look, how I present, etc., digital footprint is like as equally, if not more important. So hopefully, prior to me sitting down with them in their home and pitching them, they've checked me out online, checked out the website, read through the materials, and I think at that point it's just a question of like chemistry, like do we get along? I tell them like, listen, I'll pre-interview them before I sit down. This is the other thing that I do. This is good for me to talk through this. Before I send them the listing presentation, I go through a series of 17. I say, do you have 10 minutes? I'd love to ask you some questions. I ask them about 17 questions.
Pre-qualification.
Yeah. This is not, I'm not being interviewed. You are being interviewed. And I like to say, I don't list homes. I list sellers. If I go through these questions, if this person is completely unrealistic, I don't want to work with them. For a number of reasons. Number one is they might have expectations that are absurd. Like it could be like a $4 million house and they're like, I would accept, 5.2. It's like, I wish you the best. Yeah.
And if you can say that authentically,
yeah,
then you are in the power position.
100%.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that because you're the one performing the services that you are somehow subordinate to the client.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I look at it is, you're coming to me asking me for a favor to come do work for you.
Yep.
And I'm the one who spent 15 years of my career building, being the best in the best.
Yes.
So if you want me to do this for you, it's actually my call.
Yes.
Do I want to take it on? Because for example, my contracts are 12 months. So am I going to be in bed with somebody for 12 months who's showing signs of bad expectations? No.
Of course not.
No. And I also make sure if you Google us, like, we never been sued. We never sued anybody. We're just not that type. If you're that type, don't fuck with us.
Yes.
We got clean. There's not even a single negative review online about us. And it's not because we like watched them, just nobody's complained.
Yep.
We either, and that's not to say that we're perfect, like we get everything right. We fuck up, about 90% of our campaigns reach their goals. 93% of our campaigns reach their goals. So that means 7%.
So impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But that means 7% don't reach their goal.
Yeah.
What do? We have a guarantee. So in a lot of cases, we work for free until we hit their goal. In other cases, we'll make it right, whether it's helping them raise capital or doing something else. So we just make it right. So it's like, I think that a big part of closing deals is also being an honest businessman who can genuinely be trusted.
Yes. Yeah. Trust is the most, if they know, like, and trust you, you're solid.
Yeah.
I also will tell them over the phone, after we meet, one of a few things will happen. Either we decide to move forward and work on paperwork, or, if for some reason you don't think it's a great fit, then we decide not to. Or if I decide it's not a great fit for me, then I can refer you to somebody else.
So nice.
Yeah.
So gentle. Yeah. Put them down gently. Never have to be harsh.
No.
Damn. Well, this is blown my mind already so far. It also reminds me the importance of putting yourself in the right room and being not afraid to invest. Right?
No. I'm like, listen, I will go all the way in. And I ask them to meet me. It's like, I generally cover like photography. I mean, not generally, I always cover photography, marketing, launch parties, all these things. It's the owner's responsibility to, if the place needs to be zhuzhed up, do a stage, a partial stage, something. If there's resistance, I always say, listen, like, we're partners in this, and I'm looking for a partner to invest alongside me. This is what I'm investing in, and I ask that you do the same. If we're looking for this result, which generally, I mean, depends on the property, but if it's a luxury property, it's a high result. Their takeaway is going to be significantly more than mine. Why would you not invest a little bit up front?
It's also just such a red flag when I smell somebody who's not willing to, if they want me to make concessions, but they're not willing to make concessions, I'm instantly like, whoa, we're already not vibing.
Yeah.
You can test it and check if they, concede and say, oh yeah, that's fair, then, you've just brought them awareness. But if they're actively resisting, that's a super, super scary thing to me.
Totally.
All right, so I want to shift gears a little bit now, Adam, and thank you for all this. This is mind-blowing shit. So
my pleasure, man.
Any listeners need to be taking notes on just the networking thing, if nothing else. Just like, get out there and spend some money to be around rich people.
Like, for instance, the event that you came to had Rolls-Royce, Rusnak Rolls-Royce and Bentley co-sponsor the event, and I've got a great relationship with the Rolls-Royce brand manager and who you've met.
Yeah,
Ricky,
awesome.
Great guy.
Ricky and Tony.
Yeah, Tony, the manager over there, and it's like the referrals that come in. Anyone who owns a Rolls-Royce, they probably own a nice house, and it's like those are value. So like, I took Ricky out for some nice dinners, like. Just little gestures to add value, not expecting anything, genuinely not expecting anything. And also, only good things will come from that. You don't know who, what, when.
And what does it cost you? A few hours, maybe a few hundred
bucks? A few $100.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about next is you went into a new career. You built it from the dirt to the bricks to now, your own mansion or castle of a career, which is, Adam has just become a staple in LA of selling luxury homes. And just, as you heard with the Jeff Franklin property, the Full House property, that's probably, of the top 5 listings in LA right now. So how did you what did the day-to-day look like coming into this new career? Like, how did you literally get started? When you said, okay, I'm going to be a realtor, I'm going to be a broker, what were your next moves?
So I was really nervous. I was really anxious. And I also, I had invested like 80% of my portfolio into the film company to start it, which was now, we hadn't folded it completely, but the writing was on the wall. So I really didn't have a plan B, which motivated the shit out of me. Knowing that there was no fallback, like this, there's no other possibility. This must work. So that was very pressurized. Right around that time, I was introduced to, not personally introduced, but I became aware of Joe Dispenza and started doing his meditations. I'd been doing breath work. So I was doing breath work.
Life-changing.
Life-changing stuff. So I would, Tony Robbins says state before strategy. So I would get my state, whether it was like some kratom in the morning prior to breath work, then the meditation, I would get my state to like a pristine place where like, okay, cool. This is the foundation of my day. I feel great. Now what do I do? I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. I just want to back you up a little bit. There was something you said. Oh, it's slipping my mind now. All right, continue. So you get into your state.
Get into my state.
And you're like, what do I do?
Early on, the be at Rodeo Realty, different brokerage, and the branch manager took a liking to me, and he was like, listen, I think you could be the top agent in this office. So I'm going to do one-on-one coaching with you for like 2 hours, 3 days a week. And I was like,
damn.
I was like, wow, okay, I'm here for this.
Yeah.
At the time, my first month, I was taking modafinil a couple days a week to really dial in the focus. No longer doing that, but I do recommend it if you need a little edge.
If you need to clock in and
just... So learned from him. I was not afraid to ask for help. So I was asking for help. I came in humble, and I knew that I didn't know anything.
Another poor people fallacy, thinking that you need to come in bigger and hotter than you actually are.
No, because anyone who's successful is going to sniff your inauthenticity.
In the puffery, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I asked our title officer, I was like, who does the most business in this company? And he was like, these 10 people. I called all of them. And I was like, hey, I'd love to sit your open houses. A few of them called me back. One of them seemed cool. And the day I talked to him happened to be the holiday party that year in December. And we linked up and, having some drinks. And he was like, I was dressed impeccably, of course. And he was like, hey man, like, we should work together, And so, started some open houses, started learning a little bit. I was good with people. So instantly I started getting clients at the open houses, like instantly, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So they would ask me questions and I was like wise enough to like give an answer that wasn't that
wise enough to bullshit.
Yeah. I like bullshitted like at a very high level. And then I would like just do a ton of research and then I would like get right back to them. Or sometimes the response would be like, especially if it was over the phone and not in person, I'd say like, I want to double check on that because I want to make sure I'm giving you 100% accurate information. They always appreciated that. And then this is before ChatGPT. And then I would, do my research and make a few phone calls, and then I'd call them back and I'd say, okay, this is what we should do. And
respectable.
Yeah. I was just like, hey, I'm not going to pretend. Also, I'm not going to advise, like I'm a trusted advisor. And if I break that trust, then we shouldn't be working together objectively. So I learned in patches. I learned quickly, but in patches, and I threw myself into the deep end. They say, a friend of mine, Patrick Drake, he's the co-founder of HelloFresh, very, very good friend of mine. I just invested in his new company called Autonomy, which is a non-dairy coffee creamer, delicious. So he told me, he said, listen, as an entrepreneur, you throw yourself off a cliff and you build your plane on the way down. So I'm building my plane, like every day I'm building my plane. Scrambling, working 7-day weeks, especially on Sundays. And real estate is a game of momentum. So I started to build some momentum, and I was very consistent with my morning routines. I mean, every day. And so I started to gain, with reps, I started to gain confidence, and deals quickly materialized, and then I became more confident because then I actually was successful. And and then people started coming to me, basically is what happened. Then people started to come to me. And I feel like once the faucet is turned on, if you do it right, markets can and will shift. But generally, once the faucet's turned on, whether it's like a fire hydrant or a trickle, it'll continue if you are operating well.
So yeah, that's another kind of poor people fallacy. It sounds fucked up to say, but like if you are always networking with your target clientele, even if they're not buying right now, for example, if you're maintaining relationships with investors, even if they're not investing right now, maybe you're too early stage for them. Investors like myself, they call it dry powder, right? Like when the markets are bad, we pull out and put it in cash.
Yes.
Doesn't mean the money doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
The markets are just down because we're in cash and gold.
Yep.
Money still exists. And for somebody like myself, I'm just waiting for the right time to act and start reinvesting again.
Yep.
And so in about January of this year, I started reinvesting heavy again.
Yep.
I laid out like 6 figures in a month just toward growth and
Nice.
stuff because I saw the writing on the wall. I saw momentum building. I'm like, this is the time to deploy capital. So again, it like kind of goes to like closing deals is not something that happens in the moment, right? This is
Yep.
something that happens over the course of a relationship. And then, of course, if you can close multiple deals with people, you get more and more points on the board and more trust and testimonials and all that kind of stuff.
Totally. And I feel like you can nurture those relationships. Like one of the things that ninja selling has taught me, it's not, a lot of people treat real estate as very transactional, which for me
That's
is
exactly what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
don't.
Like that exactly. That's checkers. Like I'm playing chess here. You can keep playing checkers. Great for you. I'm playing chess, and it's a long game.
Yeah.
And just continue to nurture. In real estate, the metric is number of conversations had. So how do you have those meaningful conversations? A lot of them with either people who can buy and sell, or people who know people and can refer people who can buy and sell. So, a voice-to-voice conversation, it's the most powerful version. Probably the least powerful is probably like a DM or something. The most powerful is actually an in-person conversation like we're having right now. So I'm like, how can I compress that, have legit voice-to-voice conversations, a lot of them, in a time-efficient manner? And I do it with voice notes, actually, where I'll do check-ins with many people throughout the day. Friends, not talking about real estate, like actually not talking about real estate.
Good on you.
Stay top of mind. Eventually or immediately, maybe they'll ask about work. Now I'm in a real estate conversation, but I'm top of mind with a lot of people. As opposed to,
I mean, who do you think I'm going to go to when I'm ready to buy?
dude, I would love to help you. Yeah, 100%. So it's like with these things, like nobody really likes to be sold. It's a game of I feel like business at the highest level, it's just a game of relationships well played, and like storytelling is a huge part of it. If you can tell a story and captivate an audience, whether the audience is buying something from you or not, or just can't stop listening to you, you're winning.
People always say that to me, but I'm like, how do I tell a fucking story? Which story do I tell? How long is it? Blah, blah, blah. So tell me a story about Villa Andalusia.
I'd say the story you told recently, I cannot remember the influencer's name, but you were like, this is a...
Ashton Hall?
Yes.
How he's losing $1 million a month.
A month. Yeah. I was like, that's the story you should... I was like, if I were launching an app and I listened to that, I would call you.
By the way, a fitness influencer with 1 million followers hit me up after... who's been a cold lead, and he hit me up. He's like, hey, I saw the Ashton video you made. I'd like to hear what you would propose for my app.
Exactly.
So
that's the type of storytelling. So for Villa
I'm booking him on
Andalusia,
Monday.
dude, and I bet you're going to close him.
Yeah.
You
already know.
Yeah.
The dogs are hungry. So tell me a story about Villa Andalusia.
So for Villa Andalusia, for me, it's not just a home. It's a lifestyle. It's a fantasy. And so what I wanted to do in creating content
For the buyer.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. What I wanted to do is not your traditional, super quick cut, 60-second piece of content. I wanted to do something that was experiential and really elevated. So I hired a company to put together 4 spots.
Commercial TV spots.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to clarify for the audience.
4 commercials. And my favorite of those, like when I first walked into the home, I was like, wow. Wow. The arches, like the backyard. This
most stunning house. Dude, I've been in some nice houses, but damn.
So what we did, we did a lot. But one of the things that we did was we flew an FPV drone directly through the home, straight through the hallways, underneath the waterfalls, and all the way back through the primary balcony into it and wrapped around. And I was like, I don't need to actually say one word. I'm just going to have a really nice, light ambient soundtrack, throw some like bird song in there and some waterfall sounds, and give you like a glimpse of what life would be like here. I think sometimes less is more. And so, I did I did an MTV Cribs video. So I hired one company, Crossroads Studio. to do 4 spots. Then I hired Jason Oppenheim's guy, Selling Sunset, to do an MTV Cribs video of me, which...
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Which is super fun. And because you never know like who your audience is. But
yeah, it's got that little tinge of nostalgia to it.
Exactly. Yeah, just having fun with it. And I think having fun... People want to have fun, and giving people permission to have fun.
Especially on something big and expensive.
Right.
Like, you don't want that shit to be all stiff. Like,
no.
Ugh.
Yeah, like I want people to like look at it and be like, how can I...
That's what I liked about the mixer. So you hosted a party there, maybe like 100, 150 guests, obviously highly selective, but people were vibing. Everyone was drinking, having fun. They're like, damn, I'm in this multi-million-dollar mansion. I'm having a good old time.
Yeah.
Taking photos and videos. Like people were elated, that sense of elation. I want to double click into what you said about the implication, right? Like, you don't have to be on the nose if you're storytelling. Mm-hmm. If you fly the first person view drone, kind of like the 360 agile drones through the house, first of all, it's very cinematic, looks really cool. But for me, the implication that I get, or what it evokes for me, is a different story from what it would evoke from you.
Yeah.
Right. So if I put a narrative in there, I put text, then I might have fizzled that flame out. I might have blown that candle out before it could ever burn. Right. So for me, the story that I pick up from that is this is you made it.
Yes.
That's what I get from it.
Yes, exactly.
But what you might get from it is a Spanish villa.
Yeah.
I'm living like the Spaniards.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's
and both are cool.
This is where mystique and aura come from. This is what I think you have perfected. I think you've really nailed that with your content, with your personal brand, because it's like, before we relinked back up and started hanging out again, I saw your content. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Where did he come from with this shit? and I'm just like, it's so like big and beautiful and just outrageous in a way, in a classy way. And I'm like, what the fuck is Adam's deal, dude? What has he become? He's just like this like superstar of real estate. And so you triggered all these emotions in me, right? And so that's what I think you do well is, and that's what I think everybody in business needs to think about is like, what is the implication? Not what am I saying and what am I directly putting out there, but like, what are people picking up?
Yes.
Like in companies, they say culture is caught, not taught.
I like that.
Right. And so what are people catching from you?
Well, I'll tell you a short story. So I'm licensed in California, but I've done deals in many different cities. And I think one thing that most luxury realtors in general in LA don't do is they don't think outside of LA. A lot of real estate in Los Angeles is bought by foreign buyers. And so I was like, I'd like to have a footprint internationally. And people are always trying to sell. It's ironic. They're trying to sell realtors things. Like we sell things. People are trying to sell us things all the time, whether it's marketing or a million different things. Software. Just I cannot tell you how many calls, texts, emails, etc. And so I get an email one day last year. Maybe it was 2 years ago. This French agent, and he happened to see me online. I think my SEO, I don't even know. He was directed to the website, found me on Instagram, and he reached out and he was like, "Hey, I've got like a very unique property I'd love to talk to you about. It's a trophy property. It's an island." And I'm like, okay, this is either a weird scam or this is really cool. So I will invest 15 minutes to do a Zoom with this person. Okay. And I jump on a Zoom. I do some research on him, LinkedIn, etc. And I jump on a Zoom, cool guy. And his name is Gregory Morand. And he's like, listen, I've got this island. It's an 8-hour, 15-minute direct flight from LA. It's in French Polynesia. It's on a protected atoll. It's literally a 10-minute boat ride from an international airport. So you could be door to door, LA to onto your island in 10 hours, which there are so few places on earth that are like that. And he's like, and so I'm interviewing Los Angeles-based realtors because I'm based in Nice, at the private airport in Nice, and I think the buyer might be in Southern California, perhaps, maybe in Australia, who knows. Jumped on a bunch of calls with him, and we're talking, and he is interested in breath work. And I was like, okay, I know at least one other realtor for sure who he's talking to, who I know personally. I've done deals with this person. Great realtor. And I was like, how do I set myself apart from this guy? So I was like, I'm going to gift him a one-on-one breathwork session with like this master teacher, just as a gift. I bought him it changed his, like, he called me right afterwards. He was like, oh my God, like I had a complete state change. I feel like a different man. This is incredible. Wow. I'm so excited. And so I ended up getting the listing for this private island.
I remember seeing it. It's crazy.
15 million euros. And then I'm like, okay, anyone who buys this island, they're probably flying private. If not, why not? But they're probably flying private. So let me work out a couple alliances with private jet companies. And it just opened my eyes to, when I look at the business that I'm doing, 90% of it is LA based. Some of it is in New York, some of it's in Miami, some of it's in Austin, now more than ever. Nashville a little bit, blah, blah, blah. But why not international? It's a way to differentiate myself from all of my competition. Most people aren't thinking that way. And so when I go out to Ibiza in July, I have property tours set up with Spanish realtors. I flew out to Miami recently for a top producer summit to meet with some of the guy who owns the top brokerage in Israel, top brokerage in France, top brokerage in Spain, just building those alliances. I think it's really, really important. And I feel like when you tell a story well, I think this goes back to like no kinks in the armor. If you tell a story well, your content is well positioned, your message is clear, your reputation is pristine, there's no way you can't win. I mean, like, you're winning, and it's replicable.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't get why more people don't just polish it up.
Right.
Every aspect of my shit is clean,
dialed.
From my underwear to my pants to my shirt, everything has been thought through, and I want it to be exactly right.
Yes.
I don't see any reason why people would not be thinking that way, but maybe I'm a perfectionist. So, Adam, I know we're running out of time here, but the last area I want to cover, first I want to talk about how can we help you? Like, what's, is it people who know in the audience who know somebody who's in the market to buy a home in LA? Should they forward and connect to you? If so, how? And then I want to talk about the real estate market and buying.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a resource. So usually it starts with answering questions. I'd say if any of your listeners have questions about Los Angeles real estate, where the market's going, real estate in general, investing, flips. Most of what I do is single family residential. I do some multifamily. I do some commercial. Usually they're for my residential clients who own businesses and they're looking to buy a building, something like that. But yeah, I'm more than happy to be a resource for any of your audiences, clients, etc.
Yeah, I might want to talk to you about getting some office space too. I've looked at buying, but I've never I don't know anything about it, so I've never thought that it might be possible. And somebody made some remarks to me, and it's totally capable given my circumstances. So we'll definitely have to connect offline about that. But now, what about your perspective on real estate in general? How do you look at it as an investment? Do you think it's a smart investment right now? If yes, then why? If no, then why?
So I'd say as an asset class, Los Angeles residential real estate is pretty safe. There are over the last 20 years, there are only a few years, maybe I think 4 years, where properties have not appreciated. Like there have been some flat markets. There have been some, 2021, 2020, 21, like insane returns. Those are not, you can't get those consistent returns.
Results not typical.
Not at all. Results are far from typical. But there are so many there are so many tricks, hacks, and ways to build wealth in real estate. For instance, if it's a property that you own, married couples have a $500,000 capital gains exemption. So if you own a property for 2 years, you sell it. Let's say you buy it at $3 million. Now it's worth 3.5. That 500 grand is,
I didn't know that,
tax free. So like, if you're an employee, that's like you made like 900 grand and got taxed. That's awesome. For income properties, investment properties, you buy something, you hold it for 2 years and a day, sell it. You can do what's called a 1031 tax deferred exchange, where let's say you buy something for $3 million, now it's worth 3.5. You sell it. The money goes from escrow number 1 into an accommodator's account, a trust account. Never hits your account. You then have a certain amount of time, 180 days, you have 90 days to identify 3 properties, 180 days to close. You buy another property for, let's say, 3.5. You paid no tax on your gains. You now, have gone from, let's say, a 2-plex to a 4-plex. You can do that every couple years and like
never pay tax.
And then all of a sudden you bought a 2-plex. Now you own a 16-unit apartment building that's worth $12 million. Then you can obviously start taking HELOCs. You can start doing, not HELOCs, but you can start drawing cash out of the income property, buying other stuff. You can start doing flips. There's so many ways to build wealth in real estate. And this market in particular, it's always a top 3 market globally. Lots of foreign money coming in. It's desirable. Post fires, obviously, some people are moving out of the state for sure. But LA real estate is not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's one of those markets that they call like
evergreen.
Or just like the invincible markets. There's some word for it. Basically it's unaffected.
Yeah,
pretty much always goes up.
Pretty much over the long term for sure.
Okay, and do you think that there's a way to solve this housing shortage, building code and regulation, or do you think it's just always going to be like this and it's always going to be tough?
Hopefully it's not always going to be like this. There's talk of doing like multifamily, more multifamily in the Palisades, in Malibu. We'll see what gets approved, and what doesn't get approved. Obviously the homeless, as you know well from your stories, like there's been tremendous mismanagement when it comes to the homeless crisis, and corruption and money just disappearing, which is just completely unacceptable. So sad. And so unfortunate. I feel like for a while there will be housing issues in LA. How does that affect us? Generally prices go up.
Yeah, sounds great for you.
I'll say the one thing that has really poorly affected the luxury market, specifically in LA, is ULA. It's called the mansion tax. So any property, it started out 2023 at $5 million and goes up, I think 3% per year. So it's closer to, I think it's 5.3 million now. There's an additional tax of 4% on the seller. One of the reasons it's a flawed law is because, let's say somebody buys a property for $6 million and it goes down to like 5.8. Let's say just whatever, someone gets divorced, they have to sell, they still pay that mansion tax even though they lost money on property. Pretty insane.
The government intervening with market pricing generally does not work.
It does not. Yeah.
Forget about your political beliefs.
Yeah.
You look at healthcare, you look at student loans, that's all a factor of
Yes.
government intervention.
Yes.
And I don't even have a super strong stance on it. That's just the observation. That's just the facts. But anyway, Adam, this has been awesome, dude. I know you got another appointment to get to, so I want to let you go here. But before we cut this off, why don't you tell us your website, your handles, how people can find you, stay connected, and who you're looking to meet.
Happy to. So website is Adam Brawer Estates, Brawer estates.com. On Instagram at Adam Brawer, Brawer. You can also email me, adam@adambrowerestates.com. People I'm looking to meet. I love working with great people. And whether that's somebody who's selling a $50 million house or someone who's looking to buy a $2 million house, it's not just about the size. It's definitely not just about the size of the transaction. It's about the quality of the relationship. And so anybody who has questions about real estate, is interested in potentially dabbling, would love to help.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man, this has been awesome. I knew it'd be good. Sometimes I go into a conversation and I used to do a lot of research and develop a bunch of questions and outline, but now I do it all intuitively. And this is exactly why, because just a badass conversation. You're a badass guy.
Likewise, brother.
So, yeah, thanks for coming on, Adam. Awesome to have you, man.
Great to be here.
Cheers, buddy.
That was awesome. Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Good stuff.
That was phenomenal.